السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على السلام حي على السلام حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد إن استك حديث كتاب الله عز وجل وأحسن حدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر أمور محدثاتها وكل محدث في الإسلام بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. All praise is due to Allah Azza wa Jal. We praise Him and we extol Him and we seek refuge in Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala from evil within ourselves and evil results of our wrong actions. Whomsoever Allah guides can be never left astray in misguidance. Whomsoever Allah allows to be left astray, and there is no guide for that individual. Verily the most truthful of speech and the best speech is the book of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And the best guidance is that of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the most evil of affairs are the newly invented ones, bid'ah, innovation in the deen. And every newly invented matter is a going astray, and every going astray leads to the hellfire. Amma ba'd. So my dear Salam Iman, today I would like to give us all a reminder about the Quran and the importance that we all need with the Quran and the connection of the Quran in our daily lives. How is it, as Muslims, that we all agree that the Quran is the book of Allah Ta'ala, but yet we know this fact, but as Muslims, we are still arguing and debating about aspects from the Quran. We know that the Quran has come down from Allah Ta'ala. As Allah says in Surah An'am, ayat number 115, وَتَنْمَتْ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا لَا مُبَدَّلَ لِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَهُوَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Surah Allah. Allah said that His word has been completely fulfilled, kalimat Rabbi, with truth and with justice. And there will be no change in the words of Allah. And Allah is all hearing and all knowing. He's fully aware of everything. So we Muslims, we all agree that the Quran is the unchanged and unadulterated words of Allah Ta'ala, brought down by the order of Allah on the wings of His archangel Jibreel to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ over a period of 23 years, bit by bit, in the Arabic language. Some verses were revealed in Mecca and some were revealed in Medina. All Muslims unanimously agree on this fact. So if we agree on this, then why is it that we're always having heated debates about the deen? When we know that the Quran is our main source of guidance to the deen. So the focus of our khutbah today will be regarding how is it as Muslims that we have this book as our guidance. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Alif Lam Mim, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. In the starting of Surah Al-Baqarah, and this Alif Lam Mim, we have no idea the meaning of these letters. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says that this is the book, that there's no doubt in it. And this is a guidance for those who are muttaqeen. وَمَا جَعَلَ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ اللهم آمين. May Allah make us of those who are muttaqun. Allahumma ameen. Those who are true believers in Allah Ta'ala. Let me start off by saying that this book, there's no doubt in it. La rayba fi. That's the first thing that we have to understand. And I think by consensus, all Muslims agree that the Quran is the unadulterated true word of Allah. And there's no doubt in it. But if we want to get guidance from Allah Ta'ala, then we must be muttaqun. We must be people who are in search of the truth. If we want to be guided, then we have to be seekers of the truth. So what I have noticed, not just myself, but many people have noticed that majority of us, we're only seeking after those ayats, those verses to suit our personal desires, or for those ayats that will be closely related to our political agenda or a madhab. We have to understand that this verse, the ulama have stated that this verse, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, that this ayah is, has been mentioned by many scholars that with this verse, stating that this book, there's no doubt in it that it is a prohibition in meaning. That it is a prohibition in meaning that it is totally haram, forbidden for any Muslim to have any doubt in the Quran, to have any doubt in the authenticity of the Quran. La rayba fi. We have Quran here, we have Quran in Malaysia, we have Quran in Indonesia, in Trinidad, in Guyana, in Jamaica, in every part of the world, the Quran is one in the Mus'haf. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And there isn't any Muslim that will disbelieve in this book. And the ulama have stated, if any Muslim has disbelief in even a single letter of the Quran, then they have disbelieved in the whole of the Quran in its entirety. Not so the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. As Muslims, we should have a doubt of the person who is narrating the hadith until they can bring us proof that what they are narrating of the Prophet ﷺ has been proven as authentic. So I think that all Muslims, we agree on this fact. That if any Muslim has been proven that this hadith is authentic, then they have no other choice than to accept the authenticity of that hadith. They have to accept that hadith. If any Muslim says that they do not believe in the hadith with knowledge, ilmiyan, with knowledge, after the proof has been presented to them that this hadith is authentic, then they also become outside of the millah. They have also become disbelievers in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So, as Muslims, we have to stop arguing and debating over the fact of the Quran and over the fact of the Sunnah. Once it's been proven that the Quran, as we know, is from Allah, it came from Allah, from the angel Jibreel to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and that this Quran is a source of guidance. So how do we rectify the situation of these arguments and these debates? The first advice that I have for myself and all of us, when we want to go to the Quran, we want to be guided. And I don't think there's any Muslim who does not want to be guided. The first thing that we have to do when we go to the Quran, we have to approach it with ikhlas, sincerity. And I don't think that there's any Muslim that would say that they're not sincere in their quest for seeking the true guidance from the Quran. Taib. With that in mind, when we want to seek guidance from the Quran, then the first source of guidance from the Quran is the Quran itself. When we want to be guided by the book of Allah, Ta'ala, our first source of guidance is the Quran itself. And then secondly, the authentic reports of the Prophet ﷺ. The first source of guidance is from the Quran, with the Quran. And then secondly is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And thirdly is the way of his ashab, radhiyallahu anhum ajma'in. If we want to get proper guidance, we must follow these steps. We seek the guidance of the Quran from the Quran, firstly. Secondly, we see the guidance of the Quran from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And thirdly, we must seek the guidance of the Khulafa al-Rashidin. The Prophet ﷺ, he said very clearly, Alaykum bi sunnati. He said in the last days that we'll see فَسَتَرَى اختلافا كثيرا فعليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين من بعدي. He said, in the last days, we will see lots of difference of opinion. So he said, hold on to my sunnah and the sunnah of my rightly guided khulafa, sahaba after me. So with that in mind, salam and iman, we have to understand what Allah Azza wa Jal said regarding following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, وَمَا يَنْتِقْ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. That Allah Azza wa Jal said that the Prophet ﷺ, he does not speak of his own desires, except revelation sent down to him. So we have to understand that our first source of guidance of the Quran is with the Quran, and then following that is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ said regarding himself, أُعْتِيتُمْ الْقُرْآنَ وَمِثْلُهُ مَعْ أَوْ كَمَا قَالَ صلى الله عليه وسلم. That the Prophet ﷺ said that I was given the Quran and something similar to it, which is the Sunnah, the legal way of the Prophet ﷺ. So if we want to be guided in these days that we're living in today, because we all have the Quran and we all have books of hadith, so how do we understand these things? How do we deduce? How do we understand these things? The noble Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad bin Ali Ajami, he has stated, he has said to his students, he said, إِيَّاكُمْ ثُمَّ إِيَّاكَ أَنْ يَأْخُذَ الْعِلْمِ مِنْ بُطُونِ الْكُتُبِ الَّذِينَ عِنْدَكُمْ. He was giving this advice to his students, that I warn you from taking the knowledge from the books that you have with you. Allahu Akbar. So how are we supposed to get the knowledge when we have the knowledge in the books readily available? When the ulama have warned us from taking the knowledge directly from the books. Taking the knowledge directly from the books. So we have to go to those people who are rasikhuna fil ilm. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in His book, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ مِنْ قَبْلِ إِلَّا رِجَالٌ نُوحِي إِلَيْهِمْ فَاسْأَلْ عَلَى ذِكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said in His book, in Surah Nahl, ayat number 43 to 44, and we had not sent except before you men who had revealed to them about what? The Quran, the book, the scholars. Allah said, then ask those who have been given the dhikr, the people of knowledge, if you do not know. So, regarding this, if we want to get the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, we shouldn't be so bold and to just search and find these sources and just quote from the sources as if we are the intercession between Allah and His Rasul and understanding. No, we have to get the understanding from the ulama, ar-rasikhuna fil ilm. So we have to be in search of a sincere senior scholar of Islam. And how do we know that this person is a scholar? What are the signs of scholarship on the scholars? Is that first and foremost, the ulama, the scholars themselves recognize that this person is a scholar. This person is a scholar. We know that not because people love him and they follow him, or he's popular on YouTube, or he has a lot of followers on Instagram. This is not scholarship in Islam. Who the ulama have stated that this person is a scholar. And how does this person be qualified to be a scholar? That when he quotes from the Quran and the authentic Sunnah, so as to guide people to himself. La, abadan, la, never, no way ever. He quotes from the Quran and the authentic Sunnah so as to guide people to his madhab. La, abadan, la, never. The ulama, they do not quote from the sources of the Quran and the authentic Sunnah so as to guide people to themselves or to their way of thinking. The ulama are rasikhuna fil ilm. Those people who are firmly grounded in knowledge, they quote the sources of the Quran and authentic Sunnah so as to guide people, to serve as a guide, by the permission of Allah, to serve as a guide to Allah, to the right path. This is what we should be. This is how we should be. We should be those who are sincerely in seek of somebody in this day and age of ours who is calling others to the correct understanding of the Quran and authentic Sunnah. This was the case in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. For example, we have Abdurrahman Abdullah bin Mas'ud, who was one of the early converts in Mecca Mukarramah. When there was only a few people who believed in Islam after the Prophet, his wife, Khadija, Abu Bakr, and Bilal, Abdullah bin Mas'ud was one of those men who was one of the early converts and learned the Quran from the Prophet ﷺ. And he was the first person to recite the Quran publicly in the faces of the Quraysh. And they beat him very severely. They asked amongst themselves, who would recite the Quran to these Quraysh, to these mushrikeen? No one has done it yet. He said, I will stand up and I will read. They said, I fear for you. We are hoping somebody of a higher tribe and status that they would do it. He said, no, Allah will protect me. I will do it. And he started to recite the Quran. He stood at the Maqam Ibrahim and he started to recite the Quran to them. They beat him and they punched him and they bruised his body and his face. And he kept reading the Quran and he returned back to them. He said, this is what we're afraid of for you. He said, if you wish, I will do it again tomorrow. He said, no, you have done enough. You had caused them to hear that which they did not want to hear. Allahu Akbar. So these people were bold with the Quran. They had knowledge of the Quran and they had a love of the Quran and they were courageous. Nowadays, a lot of people, they like to hide behind the Quran. They like to say what they want to say or say how they feel according to their own madhab or political agenda. And then they want to try and search and find some ayah to suit their agenda or to prove the validity of what they are saying. This is not the tartib. This is not how we benefit from the Quran. If you want to benefit from the Quran, we have to go into it with a good intention. And this man, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said regarding himself that there isn't any verse in the Quran that I do not know when it was revealed and about what subject matter it was revealed about. Allahu Akbar. What strong words from a man. He said there isn't any verse. He said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِي, I swear by the one who holds my soul in his hand. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he's saying that there isn't any verse in the book of Allah that I do not know where it was revealed, which place it was revealed, and what were the circumstances regarding its revelation. Allahu Akbar. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you want to recite the Quran, recite it in the manner of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And after him, after Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, we have a very noble Sahabi Jalil, who, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he gave the tazkiyah. He verified his ilm. It was Abdullah ibn Abbas, anhu. Ibn Abbas, he was a very young Sahabi. He was only 3 years old by the time the Prophet ﷺ made hijrah from Mecca to Medina. And the Prophet ﷺ, he put his saliva in the mouth of Ibn Abbas. This is the close companionship of the Prophet ﷺ to Ibn Abbas. How Ibn Abbas had a closeness to the family of the Rasulullah ﷺ. Ibn Abbas, he was so close. The Prophet ﷺ, you don't ever have to ask permission to enter into my home. You're always welcome. The people thought that Ibn Abbas was from the Ahl al-Bayt. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he says that Ibn Abbas, Tarjaman al-Quran. Ibn Abbas, he is the interpreter of the Quran. Although Ibn Abbas was much younger than Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, he gave the tazkiyah, he gave the recommendation that you should take the Quran from Ibn Abbas. Regardless of what he said about himself, he said that this young lad, who was only 13 or 14 years old at the time of the death of the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Huwa Tarjaman al-Quran. He is the interpreter of the Quran. And Ibn Abbas, there's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, where he said that one day, the Prophet ﷺ, he held me tight, and he made dua for me, and he said, Allahumma afiqhu fi din wa'alimuhu ta'wil. He said, oh Allah, give him the understanding of the religion. Give him the fiqh, the fahm, the understanding of the religion, and make him understand the ta'wil, which means the interpretation of the Quran. So Ibn Abbas wasn't any ordinary Sahabi, and he was very young. He was very young amongst those great Muhajirin and Ansar and the people of Badr. There's a hadith which is collected by Ibn Abbas in the Quran Sahih Bukhari, where he said that Umar ibn Khattab, he used to bring me to the gatherings of those big Sahabi of Uhud and Badr and make me sit with them. And as if one of them did not like my presence, he said to Umar, why do you always bring this young lad to sit with us, and we have children like him? Why do you bring this young little kid to sit with us, and we have children just like him? So Umar ibn Khattab, he asked them, he said, what do you say about the ayat, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ? What do you say about this ayat? He says, it means that if we are given the victory of Allah, that we should be thankful of Allah's favor upon us. Some of them said that, and some of them remained quiet. So Umar ibn Khattab, he turned to Ibn Abbas, anhuma, and asked him, may Allah be pleased with him and his father, and asked him, do you say the same thing? What do you say about this ayah? He said, no, I don't agree with those big men. I don't agree with them. He said that this ayah is talking about the death of Rasulullah ﷺ, that the Prophet ﷺ would pass away soon. And it was within 6 months after that, within 6 months after the revelation of this ayah, then after the Fath of Mecca, that the Prophet ﷺ, he passed away. Ibn Abbas, anhuma, may Allah Azza wa Jalla be pleased with him and his father, he used to say about himself that I used to stay close to the senior Sahaba, to the senior companions of Rasulullah ﷺ, min al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar, from the Muhajirin and the Ansar. And I used to ask them about the campaigns of the Prophet ﷺ, and what verses, what ayahs were revealed concerning those campaigns. So this, my dear brothers and sisters, Iman, is what we need to do in this day and age that we're living in, with so much fitna. As the Prophet ﷺ said, if we live long, فَسَتَرَى, we will see so much fitna. So what should we do? Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnat al-khulafa ar-rashidin. We need to hold on to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the sunnah of his rightly guided Sahaba. We have to be in search. These days that we're living in with so much confusion regarding the Quran and the authenticity of the sunnah, we need to be in search and stick to laziman. Stick to, without leaving, a person of the sunnah, a sincere scholar of the sunnah, who the scholar said this person is a person of the sunnah. So may Allah Azza wa Jal bless us and help us implement this methodology and hold on to the rasikhuna fil ilm, those who are firmly grounded in knowledge. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Bismillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah, wa ala alihi wa sallam tabahuda wa ba'd. As we mentioned at the beginning of the khutbah, all of us as Muslims, we agree. Black, white, yellow, brown, Arab, non-Arab, that the Quran is the book of Allah. The Quran is the speech of Allah. There was some ikhtilaf in the time of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal regarding the Quran. And people had debates regarding the Quran. Is the Quran, is it our speech? Is the Quran, is it the words? Is it written? Which part? Is it the Quran that's only on the Lawh al-Mahfuz that is written there? Which Quran are we referring to? Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, that's why he is known to us today as the Imam of the Sunnah. That all of that is the Quran. All of that is from Allah, and all of that will return back to Allah. The Quran that we recite, the Quran that's written in the Musahif, in the books, the Quran that we memorize, all of that is from Allah, and all of that will return back to Allah in the last days. You have to understand that this is part of our sound aqidah, that the Quran is from Allah and it will return back to Allah. What is in the memories will be erased. What is in the Quran, the pages of the books, will be erased. Those what we used to recite will be forgotten. All of that Quran that we have now will be risen up and go back to Allah, which is also another very important point of our aqidah, that Allah is not everywhere and in everything. Allah is up, فوق السماوات والأرض, above His arsh. He is above His arsh in a manner which befits His majesty. So we have to understand that whatever of Quran we have now, whatever we have, we should appreciate it and thank Allah for it. Those who taught us it, those who explained it to us, the asbab al-nuzul, why these ayahs were revealed. Pray for those people, because definitely they are sincerely trying to guide us to the correct understanding of the Quran. We should be in search of those people. If we really want to be guided by the Quran, then we have to approach the Quran with a clean heart, hoping to be guided, not to be guided to a certain madhab or political way of thinking or an agenda. We should not be like this when it comes to our Quran. The Quran is from Allah. Allah blesses us with the Quran. If we really want to be blessed with this book, then we have to understand ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That is the book, that there's no doubt in it. That is a guidance for those who are muttaqun. May Allah make us of the muttaqun. Allahumma ameen. We always have to keep in mind the last sermon of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said on the Hajjatul Wada, his farewell pilgrimage, he said many things, but he said, I leave to you two things. If you hold on to them, you'll never go astray. Kitab Allah wa sunnati, the book of Allah and my legal way, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Let us always stick to the Ahl al-Dhikr. Let us not go to the books and try and play scholar. Let us not only look for things so as to prove our point, but this is not the true guidance. We're only fooling ourselves. If we're sincerely looking for the truth, we shouldn't be searching books so as to validate our position. This is not the way. May Allah Azza wa Jal guide all of us. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us all of those who are sincerely seeking the truth. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless us and give us the heart which is sincerely seeking the truth. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless all of us. May Allah Azza wa Jal guide all of us. May Allah cleanse our hearts and bless us with a heart which is sincerely seeking the truth. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim. Innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barak ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأقم الصلاة